Okay, so today we're talking about the respiration lab. So the point of the lab is to see which carbohydrate drives fermentation the fastest. What you'll have is water, it's a negative control, glucose, sucrose, maltose, and starch. I know that the lab says fructose, but we don't include fructose because in glycolysis, glucose turns into glucose 6-phosphate, which then turns into fructose 1,6-bisphosphate. So sometimes the fructose can go faster than the glucose and it confuses people, so we're just not including that. But you have a monosaccharide, 2 disaccharides, and a polysaccharide. And so what we're gonna do is we have to make these respirometers. So I'm gonna do an example of how to do that because it's kind of weird if you haven't done it before. So what you do is the students are gonna get their 5 tubes, label them with a wax pencil for water, glucose, sucrose, maltose, and starch, and get the little teeny tubes and do the same thing. Now they're gonna fill the little teeny tube 1/3 full with yeast. So there will be a beaker with yeast in it, and so they'll just fill this about 1/3, that's what I wrote, right? Yeah, 1/3 full with yeast. So I have this green liquid representing the yeast right now. And so they'll fill all of them the same amount with yeast. Then what they'll do is they'll take their carb, whatever carb they're doing, and then they'll fill it the rest of the way full with that. Okay. And what they want to do is fill it all the way up to like the tippy top, because we're doing fermentation, so we definitely don't want any oxygen to be left in here. So where it has kind of like the meniscus over the top like that. So then what they're going to do is set up the respirometer. So they'll take the corresponding big tube, and what they're going to do is put it in here. And the best thing to use is a pencil with an eraser because it's got like a little bit of friction on there. And they're going to push it all the way up and then flip it over. And you can see, if we zoom in here, there's like a little air bubble in there, and a little air bubble is okay. A big air bubble is not okay. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay. And the reason a big air bubble is not okay is because we're doing fermentation. So what they'll do is they'll set up all 5 of these, put them in the rack, and then they'll go incubate them at 37 degrees. And you want to check them every 5 minutes. And what they're going to see is they'll start seeing more air in here. Let me see if I can put a thing behind it. You can see it a little bit better. So they'll start seeing more air in there, and they'll measure how much air there is in the little tube. The little tube, the air will collect in here because fermentation is going on, and it'll push the liquid out, okay? So some things we want to remember for this lab is they want to practice making the respirometer just with water before they do it, because always there's one student in the group who totally can't do it, and there's one student who's good at it. So we don't want to mix the carbs because we're testing the different carbs. We don't want to disturb the tubes. If they go over and pull them out of the incubator and do this, then you see I've just got a bunch of air here in the tube. So you don't want to disturb the tubes. You want to be very careful. You want to check them every 5 minutes. And then for the instructor, I would recommend for the yeast to come up and mix the yeast in water and put it in the incubator right before your lecture. So it's going to sit in the incubator at 37 degrees for 1.5 hours so the yeast can wake up and it's fresh. If the lab technicians make it for you and it's not as fresh, sometimes this fermentation takes a while. So that's it. The students are going to measure for 30 to 40 minutes. It takes, depends how long it takes to start making those bubbles. And then they're going to graph it out. That's it.